Arvind Srinivas, the CEO of Perplexity, was in India, I think, a couple of weeks back. And he put out a LinkedIn post saying he's looking for one person to sort of start the Perplexity business in India. And a couple of days later, he puts out another post saying that, Perplexity has acquired a company called resume.cv, I guess. So, and the joke was that he's got a million CVs. Now he has to figure out.
And so LinkedIn, for most of its history, if not all of its history, has essentially been this AI-powered matching engine. And a problem that exists in the world is we are all doing things we don't want to do for a substantial chunk of our lives.
I also see how you are different, for instance. You mentioned how it shows you people, but it also shows you people who are relevant to that period of time.
It keeps going down these paths of, well, should we build an agent that replaces people, that takes away jobs? And it's like, well, why? There are so many things we do that we don't want to do. Why don't you start there?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Our Own Devices. As our promise is, we're going to get you somebody really interesting and to talk about something that is really cutting edge and is on top of everybody's mind. But we also are going to talk about a platform all of us use even more and more every day, if you ask me. And we're going to talk about LinkedIn, and we're going to talk about and we're going to talk a lot about agents and agentic AI. So with us is Mohak Shroff, who is Senior Vice President and Head of Engineering at LinkedIn, who's joined us from the US. So Mohak, yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nandagopal. I've heard great things. I'm very excited to be here. So, hey, you said you wanted to talk about LinkedIn and agentic AI. Those are two topics very close to my heart.
Close to your heart.
Two things I've spent a lot of time thinking about and building. Just to start off, for your listeners, a little maybe an intro of LinkedIn that they might not have heard of before. A little bit of intro about LinkedIn. So LinkedIn was founded, like we talk about ourselves as this platform that connects talent to opportunity at massive scale. What's really interesting about that, like when you talk about connecting talent to opportunity, that's something that actually anyone can do or any platform can do. But when the words at massive scale come in, that implies AI. Because you can't do anything at massive scale with rules, and you can't do anything at massive scale manually. You have to apply AI. And so LinkedIn, for most of its history, if not all of its history, has essentially been this AI-powered matching engine. And what we match things to is we match people to opportunity. We connect you to the thing you need most. If you look at our product, at its fundamental core, it is a hyper-personalized experience to connect you to the opportunity you need. When you log in, the feed you see is the things you need to know most. The people you see when you see your recommendations of people to connect to, the people we believe create the greatest opportunity for you. We recommend jobs to you because those are the jobs that are most relevant to you. We recommend candidates to people searching for jobs, searching for people to hire. We recommend leads to people looking to sell things. We just go through this whole thing, and all that LinkedIn does essentially is this massive AI engine. So as we transition then kind of into the modern era of AI, with the launch of these large language models, GAI, and now agentic, the first step that LinkedIn took was saying, let's take these LLMs and apply them to connecting people to opportunity at massive scale, the same way we have done for years, really putting our members at the center of that. And so we did. We decided that, hey, one way to help people is to use these models to help you craft better profiles, to help you write better messages to each other, to help you refine the jobs that make most sense for you, to help you refine the candidates who are applying to the jobs that you're trying to post, to help create better search experiences. And we've done all of that. But then to your point, there's this new thing, this new AI tool on the block that everyone's talking about, which is agentic. Everyone wants to know, like, what is agentic? How is it going to be applied? How should it be applied? What will it do, etc. And I guess like the thing I'll sort of like pause on is LinkedIn, as it has always done, when we look at this new technology, we look at it from this exact lens. How are we going to use it to connect people to opportunity? Because in the end, the thing that we still want to make sure happens is this tool, and it's yet another tool in the, in the constellation of things we use to make ourselves more productive and successful. It's yet another tool. We want to make sure that this tool is something that ultimately creates economic opportunity for you, for
Yeah.
whoever you are in the global workforce. That's been LinkedIn's charter, and that's driven our ambitions here. It's driven our approach. It's driven kind of the foundational design theses we have.
I want to step back a little bit and ask you about agentic AI in general. And I've heard some very extreme takes on it also. Like, people think that this is maybe the thing, this is what it's going to be. Everything is going to move agentic, which means that you are maybe looking at personalization at scale. And to the extent that I have my own LinkedIn agentic AI or whatever, and it in a way means I'm not maybe browsing the platform anymore. The agent is doing things for me. I'm hearing from maybe smartphone companies talk about your smartphone being driven by your own agent, and it not having apps, it's just doing what you want. So are you is it is it just a function of people not really knowing what all it can do, or just crystal ball gazing here, or do you think this is exactly where we are headed?
I mean, if I could tell the future,
Yeah.
we, we would be having a very different conversation, Angopal.
Yes. Yeah,
But
future
let
in
me
the
tell
time
you,
of AI also.
yeah, exactly, right? It's
even
it's
more
it's definitely
even more
it,
problematic.
it's definitely feeling like it's getting a little prescient, starting to predict the future
Yeah.
almost. But no, look,
Yeah.
I think that I have conviction that agents will be a massive part of life.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why I have that conviction. I think that if I examine my professional journey, um, you know, I became a software engineer very early on, many years ago, because I loved solving complex problems through code. I loved
Yeah.
solving complex problems through code. And I believed that I could build amazing things through code, like through the application of my fingers on a keyboard, build incredible software, really explore innovative science, innovative approaches, and solve problems. And very shortly after I began working, I was met with the harsh reality that coding was a fraction of my time.
Mm.
Sometimes, when I was a more junior engineer, it was probably like 50, 60, 70% of my time. But as I became a more senior engineer, it shrank to 20% of my time, 30% of my time. And that's the experience all of us have with the jobs we love, the skills that we became, like entered the jobs we love for. That there's this other stuff that just starts to pile in. Some of it we like, we enjoy, some of it we choose, but a lot of it is just stuff that gets created as kind of overhead and overload. And so my take with agents is, you know, technologies survive not because they're cool. They thrive not because they're like innovative. They thrive because they solve problems. And a problem that exists in the world is we are all doing things we don't want to do for a
Mm.
substantial chunk of our lives. If you are a software engineer, you're spending a ton of time managing your calendar and meetings. You're spending a ton of time deploying your code and managing that code and like watching the uptime of it and the operation of it. You're spending a ton of time testing it and writing tests for your code. Like every software engineer would tell you, like there are a few people you meet where they're like, I love writing tests. The vast majority of engineers are like, I hate writing tests, even though it is fundamentally good engineering.
Yeah.
What if we could just offload all of that? Wouldn't
Yeah.
we love to do that? Now, some of us have experienced this. When you've had someone join your team who picks up some of those tasks that they love that you don't. When you've become a manager and you've actually had like a team now that can do these tasks for you and you can focus on the things you enjoy or that you can create value in. We've experienced those things. And so to me, what agentic AI offers is an ability for all of us to offload the stuff we don't want to do so
Yeah.
that we can do the things we love, the things that we are best at. I think when you take that lens, there is no doubt in my mind that while there are real problems, technical challenges to overcome,
Yeah.
platforms to be built, infrastructure that has to develop, while there are real problems, it is very clear in my mind that when a problem exists at that scale, every single person on earth could benefit from having stuff that they don't want to do taken off of their plate. When you take that perspective, it is a problem of such scale and prominence and importance. It is undoubtedly true in my mind that agents will exist to help us with that.
So, when you're working with a platform like LinkedIn, where personalization is such a big part of what you do, and I always wonder as a user, so I can tell you with a lot of conviction that maybe this is the only social media kind of platform that I use anymore.
Hey,
I've quit
applause.
everything
Good
else.
job. Good job.
I've quit everything else. But
Yeah.
but I also see how you are different. For instance, you mentioned how it shows you people, but it also shows you people who are relevant to that period of time. It's not like every day morning I see the same guy's post. So on a certain day he's not there, because he might be the person I interact with most. But on a certain day, I see that the relevance of the conversation also keeps changing. So how would you deploy an agentic AI or AI itself on a platform like LinkedIn?
Yeah. So I would say, again, go back to the point of so on the content side of things, the ability
Yeah.
for you to browse your network or browse your feed, I think it goes back to the question of what do you enjoy? Do you
Mm.
want to browse the feed? Like you just described something that you actually love doing. You love coming to the
Yeah.
LinkedIn feed and seeing this engaging content and seeing what new things there are to show you. Why would we remove that if you love it?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we start from a place like we're not building this because we think it's cool. We're building this
Mhm.
because we think it creates value for you. So
Yeah.
if there's a product you love or a platform you love or an experience you love, we want to continue to build it. We want to continue to empower it and want to focus on removing the things you don't want to do. So let's take a good example of this on the sort of user side, the member side. Job applying. When you're looking for a job, you are ready to interview. You are ready to talk to the hiring manager or the hiring company. You are ready to do research. But you hate the task of just going through a bunch of jobs and
Yeah.
sending in your resume, figuring out whether this is a good fit for you. You don't want that. We can absolutely build an agent that helps you there because that isn't a super high value activity for you. It's something you have to
Mhm.
do the thing you want. You want to do the job. You just want to get the
Yeah.
job. Finding the right job for you is something that we can absolutely create an agent or an assistant to help you with. So those are the ways we approach this is like, what are the things we should get rid of that you don't want
Yeah.
to do or offload to an agent? Now, by the way, for some people, they may actually care about that activity. They may say, I want to do that. Please don't take that away. I think I'm better at it than the agent, or I think I enjoy it more than the agent. Fine. What that leads to is an agentic approach where we believe foundationally we should provide you the ability to decide what parts of these tasks you offload to an agent
Yeah.
and what things you keep for yourself rather than applying our opinion to say these are the things that you must give up. Instead, we say, look, you decide. And we put you in the driver's seat. So, with our first agent, we built something called the LinkedIn Hiring Assistant, and we took exactly this approach, right? So, when you're a recruiter, when you talk to the best recruiters in the world, and you ask them why they became recruiters, they'll tell you, look, I love helping build extraordinary teams. I love building companies. Like when you talk to a recruiter, their job is to build the company because the company is a collection of people, extraordinary people.
Yeah.
It's talent. When you talk to the recruiter, they say, I love talking to hiring managers to educate them about the market, to help them understand what's possible or isn't, understanding the needs of the organization. They'll tell you that they love talking to candidates and convincing them that this is a good fit or helping them understand what other roles might be a good fit in the organization. I have yet to hear a recruiter say, I love doing searches in text
Yeah.
boxes all day. But it turns out that to be a recruiter, you have to do a lot of searches. You have to
Yeah.
find the candidates on platforms like LinkedIn. And so then it's like, hey, if recruiters don't love doing that, then let's build an agent that they can offload that to. Because what I want is ultimately when I come to LinkedIn as a recruiter, I get to do the thing I love. Give me a small list, a relatively small list of candidates that you found or vetted. Maybe you've emailed them and gotten back a response that shows they're interested. Maybe you've screened them to make sure that they're eligible to do this job. And then you get back that list. And now let me do the thing I love. And so this is the way we built Hiring Assistant with this very specific focus on what can we do to help you get empowered to do the thing you love. And we started with that perspective of, hey, recruiters, what do you not want to do and what do you want to do?
Yeah.
So I would just approach it with that lens, and I would encourage actually everybody in who's thinking about building an agent, everybody who's like thinking about technology in this way, to think about it from that lens. Don't just build an agent because you can. Build it because there's a problem to solve. There's a task that
Yeah.
people don't want to do, and you want to take it away from them. Now, what happens when you do that is that you actually create economic opportunity. When I go and I take this like task of searching, like imagine that the average recruiter, I'm making these numbers up, but imagine that
Mm.
the average recruiter spends like X amount of time, like half their day sourcing candidates, searching for candidates. If I can remove that half entirely, offload
Hmm.
that to an agent, I can double the amount of stuff I do on the things I love, which, by the way, creates economic opportunity for me. The more
Yeah.
productive I get, the better I get at my job, the more stuff I can do, which means the better paid I am, the more I get promoted, the more I get rewarded. It's all of this stuff. And so the core premise, I want to go back to kind of the intro where I was saying, LinkedIn has
Hmm.
always been an economic opportunity matching engine. In the world of AI and agents, we're taking this lens of what can the agent do to ensure that it's creating opportunity for you.
Hmm.
Another thing that's happening with agents, and I think this is part of kind of your narrative or the point you were making, it keeps going down these paths of, well, should we build an agent that replaces people, that takes away jobs? And it's like, well, why? There are so many things we do that we don't want to do. Why don't you start there? Why don't we
Yeah.
all build for those things which will make me happier? If I can go back to doing the things that, like, if I look at my day and 50% of it is stuff I don't want to do, if you reduce that by half, 70%, 75% of my day now is things I love doing. I am a happier person. I'm a happier employee. I'm a more productive employee. But the work is getting done. In fact, more work is getting done. And so our core premise is build with an agentic approach that puts people at the center of the opportunity, supervising these team of
Yeah.
agents. So, earlier I was talking about this like move we've seen with agents, which is like when you start to manage, you start to see kind of, I have a team of people who work for me. I see the world of agents as similar. You're not going to have one agent. So you said like there'll be the LinkedIn agent. There won't be the LinkedIn agent. There'll be many
Hmm.
LinkedIn agents.
Yeah.
And all of us will have many agents in every aspect of our life. You'll have the LinkedIn agent. You'll have an agent that does something with your calendar. You'll have the agent that does something with your email. You have an agent that is focused on content creation, an agent that helps you with this podcast in some way, maybe does some
Yeah.
research on your behalf. All of these things need to work together. And so,
Yeah.
what you really have on top of them is I envision a digital chief of staff, a
Mm.
supervising agent
Yeah. Yeah.
that actually helps you manage them because these agents need to collaborate with each other. They need to know when to kick off tasks. One agent will delegate to another agent and vice versa.
Yeah.
You need to be able to actually have a shared construct of memory between them because they all need to know what are you working on? What work have you done? How much progress have you made? Can you share that with me? And that shared context needs to exist. They need permissions between each other. You need to know which one is allowed to talk to which one and what information is it allowed to take. Like there needs to be all this complexity that gets navigated. And so envision that there's this digital chief of staff that actually helps you manage your team of
Yeah.
agents.
Yeah. So I really like that phrase, the digital chief of staff. An interesting anecdote here. Arvind Srinivas, the CEO of Perplexity, was in India, I think, a couple of weeks back, and yeah, he put out a LinkedIn post saying he's looking for one person to sort of start the Perplexity business in India. And a couple of days later, he puts out another post saying that so Perplexity has acquired a company called Resume.cv, I guess. So and the joke was that he's got a million CVs now. He has to figure out so a great use case for an AI agent. And I'm
Exactly.
somebody who experiences that on a daily basis, right? So, like, you have so many resumes that come to us at a company level, at a personal level, people just flood you. And a lot of it is not relevant. An agent can take that, at least the first skimming done very easily. Hey, this is not relevant for you, or maybe relevant to another part of your business. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, like the net result of that is actually the experience is better because the applicant
Yes.
hears sooner that
Yeah.
they are or are not a fit.
Yes.
Like the worst feeling is I apply to a job and I wait. It
Yeah. And you
sucks.
get no response. Yeah.
You get no response. Instead, you get a rapid response from this agent.
Hmm.
And on the
Yeah.
flip, as I said, is we think about tooling both sides of it. Yes, we give
Hmm.
you the agent that helps you like get through all of these CVs, get through all
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
resumes. On the other side, we give the job seeker an agent that helps them apply
Yeah.
to only the jobs that they are truly a good fit for, that
Mhm.
are actually in line with
Yes.
their goals. When those two things happen, the entire marketplace becomes more efficient, it becomes more effective, and everybody gets happier.
Yeah. If I can ask you a technology question, I guess we are all using AI agents as a generic term, but I guess how LinkedIn approaches an agent would be very different from how maybe an open AI does it, right? So at the technology level, do is your approach of how to have this technology itself, is that different from the rest of the market?
I mean, I think that there are very likely things that we do that are truly unique and
Yeah.
innovative, and there are things that we do that are honestly shared best practices. So let
Hmm.
me tell you, let me maybe describe our approach.
Yeah.
So we start with, large, like foundational large language models, these foundation models. And the reason is like there's extraordinary work being done in the world. OpenAI has these incredible models. We've used other open source models as well, and we start with these models, and uh, because I think there's really good research there, so we start with them as kind of the foundation stone of this. But then there's a bunch of stuff that has to be built. When people talk agent, they think it's like, oh, the model will just do everything. But it
Mm.
turns out that there's, again, like I want to go back to that supervisory point. Even in the like LinkedIn specific context, a lot of infrastructure has to get built. So we have to build coordination and orchestration, when to trigger the agent, when to launch it, because as you know, like these AIs aren't cheap to run. So having them
Yeah.
run 24/7 just massively increases the cost of operation, which ultimately turns into a cost that has to sit on top of the person using it, the user, the member, the customer. So the more efficient we can make it, the better. And so we have to build intelligent orchestration that says, here's where the agent gets triggered. Here's the different model that gets triggered. Because in addition to the models that we're taking off the shelf, we're also fine tuning them. We're refining them with our data, building highly distilled models, much smaller, cheaper models to run that are super effective at narrow tasks. So we
Yeah.
have to know which of those models to apply when. Then we orchestrate. We have to enable these things to collaborate. How will they talk to each other? They have to speak a common language. They have to speak in a common way to each other. Because even within a single product agent, there are actually multiple agents behind the scenes. I'll take a very interesting design pattern that has become, I think, kind of bleeding edge now, which is you have the agent and you have a critic, typically.
Okay.
And as the agent does work, the critic criticizes the work to
Mhm.
explain to it why it should or shouldn't. And then the agent thinks about whether the critic's critique is effective enough. And then it says, okay, I
Mhm.
shouldn't do this, or I should. It becomes like a kind of a conscience, if you will, for the agent to say,
Yeah.
am I
Yeah.
doing the right thing in the right way? And actually it presents a way to massively increase the precision, the accuracy of what the agent is doing. But all of that has to get built behind the scenes. You have
Yeah.
to build the ability to like manage these things, keep them up, to actually have them run in your infrastructure. You have to have shared memory. So memory is an interesting concept because the task I'm doing, the very, very narrow atomic task, needs
Mhm.
instantaneous memory. But then I need to know that there's like the task I've given you, it actually lasts 5 days. Imagine that it's the recruiting
Yeah.
task. For the next five
Mhm.
days, go through every resume and let me
Yeah.
know which ones are good. Well, I have to have 5 days of memory. And in those 5 days,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm being shut down, sometimes another agent is launching. I have to have a continuous memory that
Mhm.
remembers the feedback you've given me. It remembers what I've seen 2 days ago. It remembers all this stuff. And then you have to have long term memory, which remembers your preferences. A year ago, you told me that you prefer to hire people in this city. I need to know that now when I click off the next recruiting
Yeah.
task.
Yeah.
So we have to build all of that infrastructure. Nothing exists off the shelf anywhere. And so we've actually
Mhm.
been innovating on our own to build a lot of that infrastructure. So there are things we're sharing, things we're getting from the open source community, and a lot of things that
Yeah.
we're actually building ourselves.
Internally, when you look at the future, are you talking to your teams differently because they are maybe looking at the products differently, right? In other words, what you would have built maybe a couple of years back is no longer relevant. You're maybe building an agent for that. So, is there a difference in thought process happening also, or is it just a natural progression?
Yeah, I think so. So the first thing I'll say is, I actually think everything we've built, we've had the blessing of it being highly relevant. Actually, it feels almost like we built the exact right things that the world needs
Mhm.
today. I see the agentic future for us as extraordinarily additive. It is increasing our ability to create value rather than like replacing the things we used to do before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the way I'll tell you what the basic like platform that we share with every single developer or person in R&D at LinkedIn is. We are members first and we are customers first.
Yeah.
There are lots of people who are going to go build agents because it's cool. There are
Hmm.
lots of people who are going to go build agents because they had a great idea and they were just like, let me go and like try this, or because they want to, go do something that actually doesn't create a lot of value in the world. At LinkedIn, as I mentioned at the start, we have always begun every task with the foundational point of we create economic opportunity
Yeah.
for every member of the global workforce, for people,
Yeah.
right? Like we start with people. And so the thing that we tell people is, look, as this happened, as the sort of new technology of LLMs emerged, hundreds of people in the organization raised their hand and said, I want to experiment, I want to play. We said, go for it. Actually, experimentation is very healthy. I think organizations need to allow for flexibility and malleability in times like this so that they can test, experiment, learn, and then iterate on top of that. So we enabled everyone to go and play. Said, go play, go try things. But the bar to release something to our members and the bar to ramp something,
Hmm.
to launch something at scale is that
It's very high.
it has to create economic opportunity.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has to tie to our mission and vision.
Hmm.
Essentially, it has to have ROI to our customers and members. If it
Hmm.
creates new
Yeah.
cognitive overload, it's not useful. If it instead creates value, like fantastic, we've done something. So it's actually
Hmm.
been, if I look at our track record of launching AI-enabled features going back 20 years, it's ridiculously high in terms of our hit rate.
Hmm.
Just, since LLMs have existed now and we've been deploying them, we've had, I think, a great track record of deploying things that people look at and say, that's really valuable.
Yeah.
So with the agentic future, we did the same thing. We've got one agent out right now, one, right? And it's
Right.
like, why one? Because we had to solve so many basic problems. We had to get so many of the
Hmm.
precision things right. What we built it as was a platform that you'll start to see more agents launch on. Many more agents will come out across all of the different values that we discussed earlier. But it always starts with, if it isn't creating value for you, then why are we bothering to do it? So we start there. I would really strongly encourage, honestly, this idea of human-centric AI and human-centric agents. I really, really think that right now there is a need for grounding in the world of technology on how we should build, not just what we build, but the how we build it.
Hmm.
And I'm on a personal mission with conversations like this to ask for the technologists of the world to please take this moment to build with a human-centric lens. Recognize that this technology can be incredibly powerful as long as it is empowering. And
Yeah.
I think we have an opportunity to build it in a way that puts humans at the center of opportunity. And it is the way
Hmm.
LinkedIn is absolutely approaching it. I wish everybody does.
Yeah. So this human in the loop, um, is that how you know you think? Obviously you think that way, that the human in the loop is the best approach, um, as you're tackling the new things happening in AI, right?
Yeah, I would say it's not exactly human in the loop, but I would say it's like human as supervisor and
Hmm.
human as the deployer of the tool.
Yeah.
So when you take the supervisory role, what that means is the agent doesn't do what the agent does. The agent does what I want it to in the
Hmm.
way that I want it to look. If I'm an engineer, if I'm a recruiter, if I'm a salesperson, I do the job very differently than you do.
Yeah.
We could have two identical
Yes.
backgrounds, two identical educations, working in the same company in a similar job, and
Hmm.
we do things completely differently. Why? Because we are two
Yeah.
unique humans, two
Yeah.
unique
Yeah.
people. So if the agent doesn't work my way, then what you've done is create new load for me by saying, oh, now you have to work its way. But
Hmm.
why? You hired
Yeah.
me because I'm good at what I do. You hired me because you love the way I do it. So I want to go back to that personalization engine. LinkedIn helps you connect to the opportunity that is best for you. We should help you
Yeah.
create opportunity in the way that is best for you. So simply putting the human in the loop implies that I'm a bystander. And once in a while
Yes.
it asks me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see it as the human as supervisor. I am the
Hmm.
management for this agent.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does what I need it to. It solves for what I need solved. and it does it
Yeah.
in my way.
So it's always deployed by a human, right? Like, is
It's
that the
always
better way to put
deployed,
it?
exactly. It's always deployed by adjacent to a human,
Yeah.
solving the needs that that human has for it. What that accomplishes, one of the things that that
Yeah.
accomplishes is precision improves. Because now, if I'm managing work in an organization, I'm not like, hey, that agent over there, is it doing a good job? I'm like, hey, Mohak, it's your agent. As long as
Yeah.
you're doing a good job, I'm happy. I know you do a good
Hmm.
job. And
Yeah.
so now, Mohawk, you make sure your agents are doing a good job. It almost creates this like really good incentive structure for me to do good work
Hmm.
and these agents to help me do better and better work constantly. I'd love to talk very briefly about LinkedIn's involvement in India in
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
India is our largest global audience, growing fastest as well. It's an incredible opportunity for us, and it's been
Yeah.
an incredible privilege to be a platform of scale in India. I think you mentioned that's a platform that you use
Yeah.
and love.
Yes.
Um, we also have actually our largest R&D center outside of Northern
Yeah.
California is actually in India, in Bangalore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and a lot of what we just discussed is actually built out of that center. So the
Hmm.
infrastructure for our AI training is actually built out of Bangalore. A lot of the AI workloads inside of our trust products. So it turns out that again, one of the things that happens in this AI era is trust becomes really complicated, right? Because now you're not battling humans, you're battling machines of like unlimited
Yeah.
intelligence. And actually, the way you battle them is with like machines of unlimited intelligence of our own. And so all of our trust AI is actually built out of India. A remarkable team that works on it there. Some of the interesting AI products, we have this product that actually enables intelligence in the sales process. We call it Lead IQ. As you're reaching out to a sales lead, it has the ability to actually pull in insights about them. It's being built out of India. So we have this remarkable set of things being built there. But one of the things I'm most excited about as an Indian myself is the opportunity to partner on the digital public infrastructure initiatives. So with
Yeah. Yeah.
DPI, several years ago, I had the opportunity to talk to leaders in DPI, and I walked away feeling like, they all say sort of my language. They speak my language. Like they're like, look, we're looking to create economic opportunity for every citizen of India. And I'm like, oh my goodness, guess what I do? I create economic
Hmm.
opportunity for every member of the global workforce. Like
Yeah.
in the world, at scale, what digital platforms have created economic opportunity for north of 1 billion people? It's like
Hmm.
DPI in India and LinkedIn. And so it's like, hey, we should find a way to partner and really lean into the ability to actually be part of this transformation that's happening in India.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited that our India R&D Center also leans into this, the idea of how can we partner with the Digital Public Infrastructure Initiative in India to really drive economic progress forward. So I'm just thrilled. And in this age of AI, we've already started talking about what things can we do with AI, with LLMs, with agents in terms of this partnership, bringing our technical know-how, bringing our capabilities, bringing our platform to bear to actually partner and drive economic progress forward.
So it's really great to hear that India has a significant contribution. I guess we've had a very long conversation, and I'm sure, like and this is the only objective I have for my podcast is that people, my listeners, and people who are watching it on YouTube, uh, they go back by with an open mind on new possibilities of what technology can do for them, and on that front. I have so many things happening in my mind right now, thinking about new things we can do. But absolutely fascinating conversation, Mark. Thanks for being on the show. It was wonderful having you here.
Yeah, it was wonderful being here. Thank you so much. And I'll end on this one shout out again to everybody listening. Please, as you think about this technology, think about something that can be human centric. It is fundamental to the way we work here. It should be the way we all work. Thank you, Gopal. It was fantastic.
So you were listening to Mohak Shroff of LinkedIn. We'll be back again next week with a lot more knowledge. Till then, we are available everywhere you listen to your pods.